Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is Radio Hogan, and it is April 28th, 2008, and today's topic within the history of ideas is going to be Sociology 101. We'll be looking at the fathers of sociology: Max Weber, Emil Durkheim, Karl Marx, and C. Wright Mills. Max Weber is a man who lived in Germany, was raised in Germany, and he thought about class. And if sociology does anything, it thinks about the group. Psychology thinks about the individual, and anthropology thinks about groups in other lands, whereas sociology looks at group behavior within the Western modern world. What Max Weber and many other sociologists have noticed is that society is made up of classes. In order to determine class, Weber said there are three elements to class: wealth, power, and prestige. Weber is most famous for his theory called the Protestant work ethic, and I cover the Protestant work ethic in another video entitled The History of Capitalism. If you search on Radio Hogan on YouTube, you will find the history of capitalism, and that'll be covered in there. Now, within sociology, there are two so-called, well, there are three, but two so-called paradigms that look at society overall. Emil Durkheim is most famous for what's called the structural functional paradigm, and he believed that society was almost like the body, in that all of it worked well together. All the organs, all the parts of society functioned well together. And Durkheim believed that what kept society working well together were boundaries on behavior. And these boundaries are the customs, folkways, morals, and values of a society that brings a society to a consensus. If folks break the law, they go to jail. If they become too eccentric, they're thought to be crazy, and some are locked up. The poor are locked up, but the rich just are called eccentric. And now Durkheim did believe that there could come a time in societies where these boundaries, these morals, values, customs break down, and that intervening period between the loss of these values and the time before a society has time to create new values, he called that period anomie. Anomie, a period of chaos, or anarchy, can be brief, or it can be for a long time. The other paradigm that sociologists think about and talk about, write about, is the social conflict paradigm. And here we see Karl Marx. Now, Karl Marx spent a lot of time also thinking about class, and he viewed the working class folks and middle class folks, and also working class folks and upper class folks, as being in conflict. Now, he wasn't, and in fact he took this thinking from German philosophers, particularly Hegel. It was Hegel's feeling that in philosophy and in society, you would have a thesis, a consensus would form around a thesis, and in time, as society moved into the future, there would be an antithesis, and in time, a new synthesis forming a new thesis. And Marx borrowed this, and he saw that these classes were often in conflict. Now, he wasn't the first man, by any means, to notice that there were conflicts in society. A century before Marx, You had the French Enlightenment philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau thinking that the rich form governments in order to steal from the poor. And you had the American thinker and revolutionary George Washington's major and PR agent Thomas Paine. He clearly saw, as a man born in England, he clearly saw the different classes in society and how the upper class leaned on the lower classes. And his first writings, Tom Paine's first writings, were about slavery. Although the people such as Paine at that time weren't called abolitionists, you can think of Paine as one of the first abolitionists. Now, in the 20th century, you have a great sociologist named C. Wright Mills who continued this social conflict paradigm, and in his work, The Power Elite. And in fact, there's a newer book called The Superclass by a man named Rothkopf, I think. You can look it up on Google. And the Superclass notes that certainly the rich are getting much richer in relation to the poor and the middle class. The top 1% of rich people in the world control 40% of the wealth. The top 10% control 85% of the wealth. So you've got rampant poverty, rampant injustice throughout the world, and the divide between rich and poor is growing. So that's the story on sociology, its finest thinkers. And let me wish you a good day. Take care. Have a good one.